Good afternoon. Hope we are not waking up from your sleeps. Hope everybody is feeling active post this lunch session. Okay, the topic for the discussion is opportunities to engage in Africa. And let me quickly introduce our panelists. Roger Brown. I don't think I need to introduce anymore. He's already familiar with everybody. So let me just say this. I think probably nobody else did this. If I'm right, you started your career as a teacher, then to a banker, then to what you are today. So he started his career in Abidjan as a teacher. Then now he's MD at his. And Dr. Peter Masawe is from Tanzania, where I'm also based. And doctor is somebody, I think he has invested 20 years of his career in improving what can be done better to improve the productivity of cashew. 25 years, okay. So, I think has to be updated with that on the web. And you have, I think, done some 29 publications. 29 publications you have brought in internationally. That's what it says. And also you are instrumental in developing some 16 varieties of cashew seeds.
Yeah, it is true. I released these 16 cashew varieties.
Yeah.
Being the first country in Africa to register commercially cashew nut varieties using the International Union of Protection of Varieties. And this them in the year 2006. This year, I am releasing new cashew hybrid, being the first country in the world to release commercially registered cashew varieties recognized by the International Union of Protection of Varieties.
Okay, that's great news for all the stakeholders that live. We do need better varieties to improve the yield so that the productivity of the country, or probably he's not just referring to Tanzania, he's referring to the whole African continent, so the productivity can be further increased. And the third panelist, Mr. Tola Fasero, if I pronounced it correctly, is the head of National Cashew Association Nigeria, and he is somebody who can talk in authority on Nigerian cashew. So welcome you all. Before I engage panelists on the discussion, I just want to quickly touch on what Africa has done so far on cashew. Let me just tell a bit about Africa. Africa is one continent which is growing at a very rapid pace, and if we have to go by what international economists are saying, Africa would be growing at an annual growth rate of 6% between 2012 to 2023, and Africa would be a 50 trillion economy by 2050. So you can just imagine how much potential Africa has and where Africa can really reach, say, by 2050, and even if you have to take around 2020, Africa should be in the range of $20+ trillion economy. So there's a huge scope in Africa. Of course, this economy includes agriculture, industry, and all other areas, service areas. But agriculture, as we all know, is one of the very prominent portion of African economy. So it's still largely not developed to the required levels. We just talked about, I can just talk on one country, just to give an example. Tanzania has around 80% arable land, and we are hardly using, I think, 20 or 21% of that arable land. So still, there's so much of untapped things which we can really, use it to build this economy. And coming specifically to cashew, African cashew over the last, I've just taken one 2015. It is currently, as previous panelists have said, previous presenters have presented, currently African production sits around 1.1 tons, which was say around 300,000 tons 15 years back. So it has grown 400%, 4 times over the 15 years, and the growth pace, I think, as we progress, it's becoming faster. So, in a nutshell, to say, draw a global balance sheet of cashew, which is probably 2.6 million tons of cashew. In that, if you take around 1.2 million, this number slightly could be varying because there is no way we can get an accurate data of cashew in general and Africa in particular. So there is always a room for small variance, maybe 5 to 10%. So this 46% of approximate 46% of African cashew, which is 1.2 million, of which, as our previous presenter also said, hardly Africa is processing 10%. It's a less than 10% product. So to be at around 180 to 130,000 tons Africa is processing. In that, West Africa is processing around 50,000 more tons, which is probably less than what it is 1.2 million, 50,000, 5%, so like 5% of Africa's own production. So there's a huge scope for processing in West Africa. East Africa processing around 70,000 tons, I believe. So which means there is East Africa is a bit faster in terms of catching up, but it's still not to be done. So there are a lot of participants are coming. I think probably when we talk to our panelists, I think they'll be able to throw some light why there's an imbalance and why that can be improved further. So with this small additional point in the background, I want to just engage with our panelists. Let me start with Mr. Roger Pro. You being, involved in depth in this cashew arena, how do you see this opportunities to engage in Africa? What sort of opportunities do you feel that engage in Africa? What is that ACA is doing to probably fast track it? What is that ACA feels that what should the contribution from a country level, the origin point of view, and the destination point of view, and the people who are going to business in Africa on that?
Thank you. So, first of all, yes, thank you for the opportunity to talk about the Africa potential when it comes to the supply chain. You so rightly put it, out of a world global production of about 2.5 to 2.6 million, depending on whether or not we have a bumper crop, Africa produces, on average, about 1.2 million metric tons, of which you have about 900 metric tons that comes from West Africa, and the balance comes from East Africa. And in East Africa, you have Tanzania, who is leading the pack, followed by Mozambique and Kenya to some extent. In West Africa, you have Ivory Coast, second largest producer in the world after India, with 550,000 metric tons, followed by Guinea-Bissau with about 200,000 metric tons, that is. And then you also have countries like Benin Republic, about 130,000 metric tons, Nigeria, between 100 and 120,000 metric tons, so on and so forth. So yes, when we talk about production, Africa certainly can be positioned as a powerhouse in the cashew value chain. And so from that angle, we certainly can help support the value chain in terms of addressing the demand in terms of the consumers. I know there has been some debate about whether or not there should be a role for Africa as a producer, a role for India and Vietnam as a processing center, and then the role for the US, consumer destination. Quite frankly, I think Africa is positioned where it can not only continue to support the industry by providing quantity and work on quality to have sustained quality, but it can even do more. This morning, the first panel discussed the value chain, and I believe the moderator said that the production in Africa has reached a plateau. I have to say I don't quite agree with that. And let me share with you a few numbers. The production per hectare in Asia goes between 1.5 to 2 tons, okay, per hectare. In Africa, I think Madam Rita Whiting just showed you on the graph, it's on average 500 kg per hectare. So clearly, the potential to double the production in Africa from 1.2 million metric tons to 2.4, even more, is just there. We don't even need to expand geographically. We have to work on the seedlings, you know, the materials to have high performance trees that can yield double, triple, quadruple. Which means the processing centers in Asia, whether it be Vietnam, India, or new centers that are also emerging, will always get their additional supply from Africa. There will not be a shortage. I can tell you for a fact that the production in Côte d'Ivoire, according to the people responsible for production in Côte d'Ivoire, they are projected to double the production to 1 million metric tons. Tanzania is also working hard in increasing its production. I believe they will reach 200,000 metric tons this year. Same for Mozambique. So I'm not worried about the quantities of kernel that will come to the market. I think we should focus, however, on the quality. And for that, I agree, we need to continue to work on improving the quality of the nuts. Value addition is the second aspect of it. And again, yes, we can catch up with new technology, and in 20 years' time, be at the level where Vietnam is today, that is capitalizing on the fast drive in terms of technology that can be introduced into the industry in Africa, which is to be built. We have a few industries here and there, but nothing solid right now. This is something that we should capitalize on.
I will just throw an interesting point here. Probably something for Africa also to think. Africa is, the standard of living is growing. As I've been living in Tanzania for the last 20 years, I've seen Tanzania transform. I think Dr. would agree with me. Now, I would think, or probably everyone sitting here probably would think that Africa would become a consumer economy at some point of time, as the people's standard of living goes up. Now, let's take an example of India. India used to be the largest exporter. Now, India is the second largest exporter after Vietnam. The only reason, probably what has changed in the whole process is India became a consumer economy. Indian consumption has gone. So, having said that, there is a potential that, as the point what you have said, that we have double the yield. Okay, Africa doubles the yield, and still there's a lot of production. A lot of processing also can catch up to cater the local demand. 20 years down the line, we don't know, Africa could be probably the most richest continent probably in the world. So we don't know that. Probably that can happen. So from that context also, if I take your point, there's a huge scope that there's nothing stopping. You can just go on increasing your production. There would be a you would agree.
I totally agree with that. And as I was saying, I think one aspect that we cannot overlook is the capacity of really paying attention to this value chain. But over the last 5 to 8 years, there's been a change. Mostly because there's been a long, long push for advocacy, with government, local governments at national level in every country, by an organization like ACA to try to, shed some light on the potential, the impact of having an industry of cashew in country is real. It's real. There are studies all over that shows that. And we believe that we will be able to not only create value addition in terms of influx of local economy, in terms of in-cash, but we will also develop opportunities for the growers themselves so that we create a sustainability. Why? Because they don't have to sell to a single trader or to a single buyer. They now have diversification at the local level. They can sell to the trader, they can sell directly to the buyer in the international market, and they can also sell to the local processors. You mentioned Nigeria. Nigeria is a 170 million population. And Nigeria in 10 years will be 300 or 400 million. Nigeria alone. The ECOWAS region where Nigeria is located is about 500 million right now in terms of markets. So it is a matter of us developing a strategy of consumer-oriented approach, so that as we develop the process capacity, as we increase the production to supply the international global market, we also look at developing national or regional level capacity to absorb the broken pieces that are the main issues for processors in local economies. Because the market wants single rate materials. You don't want mixed bag, right? So that's one way for us to address the issue.
I totally agree. The other thing I think earlier we had a consultation by person was saying how challenging it is to process in Africa. One is that you don't have those equipment spares readily available next to you. Secondly, in India or in Vietnam, there's a value for almost everything what happens in the cashew process. Like every byproduct has a value. Bud has a value. The skin of the kernel has a value. The shell has a value. The shell liquid has a value. That's something I think what is needed to be something need to be worked on in African space, probably which makes this processing more sustainable, and people find it more interesting to invest in Africa in processing. That becomes more interesting. So, in particular, are you in any new initiatives or are you working on any new projects in African space? And can you share?
Absolutely. So the African Cashew Alliance realized that there is a need to not only try to help develop the industry, because our focus is on developing the African cashew industry at the processing export level. But we also realize that sustainability in terms of production is important. So we also are addressing the issue of production. So with the help of our partners, we have engaged local growers associations in countries. For instance, in Nigeria, we are currently working with USAID and local partners on the ground to train farmers, about 6,000 in quality on good agricultural practice and post-harvest to maintain quality so that the market gets good quality nuts, not only the local but also the international markets. We've also tried to address the capacity building. Somebody mentioned this morning that there's enough labor, but we are missing qualified labor. So ACA has developed what we call the business advisory service, which basically is for us to send an expert with a small village and build the capacity, training managers, operation line workers to Asia, whether it's in Vietnam or India, the cost of production is about, I believe, about $320 or $350 per kg. Whereas in Africa, it's about 450. So we're not competitive yet, but we need to work towards reducing that cost so that we become competitive. So there's a lot of issues to address. That's one of them.
So if we analyze the whole process of cashew business and the industry in Africa, what do you think is the most challenging issue for Africa to become an influencing factor in the cashew world? What do you think is processing cost?
It is at a different level. Let me start with the business environment. We need to work on creating a business environment that is conducive to expanding this country. And that is, we need to create support to the Growers Association because they are currently not well organized. The production, the supply chain is more fragmented. So we need to create that environment so that there's more transparency, so that the financial institution can then come and support. It could be as the panelist this morning said, it could be development agencies like the World Bank, you name it, can come in and help us. And also the African Cashew Initiative. She's doing a great job. But we also need to have standards so that when you process and you sell, you do it according to international standards. And this is an issue at that level. So I think there we need to definitely, with the help of our partners, try to establish those standards. I believe ECOWAS, which is a regional body in West Africa, has already is developing that and is going to issue pretty soon a standard for raw cashew nuts in the region, but also working on careful standards so that it can apply to the international standards. And the same is applying to East Africa, by the way. We are working with partners in those countries, Kenya, Tanzania, and Mozambique.
Thanks for that.
I will just add one more thing, and the other one is access to finance. And on that end, I think it is clear that if we don't address that, it's going to be very, very difficult for new investors to come in, especially the locals.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for the locals. I think corporates, they can always find a way to raise finance. I fully agree because we need to build that environment. You need to build that atmosphere which is conducive to invest in the country, and all those parameters should fall in place. I think we agree with you that the important thing is to build the knowledge at the grassroots level that how he can manage his crop and how he can effectively bring it to market, fetch the maximum price for it. Because the moment he's at the mercy of so many people in the system, he doesn't get his price. I think the farmer getting the right price is the sole reason. We see in many other commodities in Africa, commodities like sesame in Tanzania, a few years back it was only 30,000 tons. Today they are growing 100,000 tons. It is a span of maybe 7 years. So you can look at it. So you give the right initiative, right support to the farmer, he goes. Thank you. And one last question. Can Africa become the price setter for the world? Africa today is 1.2 billion, maybe 5 years down the line, exceeding 1.5 to 6 billion. Can it become?
I don't see why not. I think everybody has the right to dream to shoot for the stars. I would say yes. If Africa is able to grow significantly its production capacity to double or triple, it means that we are definitely going to be a powerhouse in the value chain. But for that, we really need to get our act together, and that means Africans need to start getting well organized. We need to have well organized at the national level. We need to have a value chain that is well organized. Producers need to be well organized. Processors, traders. We need to have a national platform that can engage the government and say yes. Just very much the like of Pinakas in Vietnam. It's very strong, but that takes into account the interest of all the participants in the value chain, so that we can then, I wouldn't say impose, but have a say at the negotiation table at the global level. Otherwise, we will always be following, and that is not acceptable. So yes, we should definitely work on developing production. We should also work on quality and sustainability, and making sure that the capacity to process is there, so that we can also be prepared at every single step of the value chain.
Thanks. Absolutely. I think I'm sure everybody sitting here would agree with what you are saying. And thank you very much. Let me now start with the person who always tries to improve the productivity, increase the production. So, Doctor, what are the specific initiatives or the efforts you think either you as a department, national research program you are heading, cashew research program you are heading, or I'm sure you're working in conjunction with CBT, which is Cashew Board of Tanzania. So what is those initiatives CBT has done under your leadership?
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I would like to say that actually the biggest problem in cashew nut production in Tanzania and in Africa as a whole is quality of the cashew nuts. And in most African countries, cashew are planted from unselected seed. So each tree is genetically on its own, and the production is not uniform. And what we did in Tanzania, when the production was 60,400 metric tons in mid-70s, was first of all to improve the good agricultural practices. Our biggest problem was disease, and we depended a lot on the research for the disease, and we managed to increase the production 145, and now we are at 200,000 metric tons. This has been achievable because on the agricultural practices, for example, farmers, we had to train our farmers on how to use pesticides. Not only how to use, it is the type of the pesticide, timing, frequency, and the rate of application. Most of the farmers, when we started, they were overusing the pesticides because if they were getting zero production, and now they are getting almost 75 production of what they are getting.
So you can sulfur dust?
Yes, they were now even overusing the pesticides. So our industry concentrated a lot on ensuring that farmers are given adequate knowledge on the use of the pesticides in order to increase production. Leave alone the support of the industry to the cashew nut research, which enables us now to develop the good varieties and the good hybrids. But apart from the varieties and the hybrids, we have quite sufficient number of new clones which are not yet hybrids that have gone through the farmers. When you look into the other African countries now, like in West Africa, Ghana, Burkina Faso, Benin, even Ivory Coast, the aspect of crop improvement has not been taken into consideration. Actually, it's only through African Cashew Alliance and African Cashew Initiative that we have been able to visit those countries and really give them the strategy for cashew improvement development in those countries. To me, when we are saying Africa production is 300 kilograms per hectare, really the whole issue there is not only genetics. The issue there is the good agricultural practices. The biggest problem in the West African production is overcrowding. So to improve production in West Africa, you have to ensure that they know the proper spacing, they do the proper pruning, they do what we call upgrading of a farm, where you cut the old trees which are poor producing and you put on top a new variety or a new improved material that will have the desirable characteristics. When we are talking about nut quality, we have to put them in the different perspectives. The nut quality starts with the nut itself, and we have to know the nut count. if the nut count is more than 200, it means it is not a good quality, even if it has no pest-borne diseases. On top of that one, we have to know the shedding percentage. We need a shedding percentage which is more than 35%. It could go as high as 32% in Tanzania now. That is 3 kilograms, you can get 1 kilogram of horse. But not very much is done to the farmers, because farmers are reluctant to cut their trees. And that is one of the biggest challenges in improving productivity. Farmers are not ready to cut down their trees. So we need to put a lot of effort to convince them to do that. And of course in Tanzania they are starting. Another one on the nut quality also is the recovery of hulls after processing. That is also considered as a variety issue. There are varieties, however you process them, the hulls recovery can never exceed 50. There are varieties, whenever you do them, the recovery will be more than 90. But the majority of them will recommend anything which is above 85% is a good variety. So when we are talking about nut quality, those are the really things that we have to put into consideration. There is also another aspect of the inactivity. In West Africa, it's a disease-free zone. So the mode of production is very cheap. The cost of production is very cheap. In East Africa, it's different. Because in East Africa, we have cholera disease, and if you don't control, you can lose 100% of the crop. But not all farmers can afford. That's why Tanzania is the only country in the world that is selling raw cashew nuts in 2 grades, the standard grades and the under grades. And it is only through the White House receipt system we have been able to eliminate the under grades and ensure that the standard grades are more, because they fetch higher prices. So every farmer is struggling very hard to use the good economic practices to ensure that they are producing raw cashew nuts of the highest quality so that it can go into the standard grades.
Thanks, Doctor. What you are saying is the good agri practices, which means there's a huge role in the zones where it has to be played by probably the local associations in conjunction with the associations like ACA, African Initiative, or African Cashew Institute, or the other people, NGOs who come along. So I don't think there's a role for private players to do anything with that.
Yes, you're right. Actually, the whole idea is in the countries where cashew industry is well developed, there are crop boards, there are associations, or there are institutes which are promoting cashew. And those countries are like Mozambique, Tanzania, and Ivory Coast. There was also an introduction of export aid. So to me, if we are going to use the National Agricultural Extension System to disseminate cashew knowledge and technologies from research, it will fail. It will fail because most of the African dissemination system is weak and funded. It doesn't have trained personnel, and it's a matter of case. Most of them are really getting old because we had 10 years of not recruiting new scientists. So don't have technicians on the ground. So to me, I'm saying that non-government organizations, the cashew crop boards, the cashew promotion institute, the cashew associations, they can play a role in dissemination of the research technologies into farmers. But using the government system per se will never work. But certainly they have to work in line with the national extension services, because they will not have enough manpower to be able to reach every farmer at every point in every country. But there are other countries in Africa now which are producing low volumes. Consider Zambia, Malawi, Kenya, Uganda, or some parts of West Africa. The cashew industry is at an infancy. To me, the approach for those countries, in order for them to be able to produce good quality cashew nuts, is really to import varieties from the other countries and have the upscaling stage of planting more cashew trees so that they can increase the production. Let me tell you one thing, that where the production is very low, the price of the crop is always very low because of the cost involved in trying to chase the nuts from one village to another. Where the production is very high, in the areas where the production is high, naturally the
So that's a good point to take that if other countries where they do not produce abundantly, where the potential is there, if they can take those examples of those countries who are doing well, definitely they can increase their production, which can bring a large production base for Africans. Okay, now you mentioned about what you have done to increase this productivity, and you also mentioned about various research system. I'm sure most of the people are aware of it works. Has it really made an impact on the farmer? Has the farmer started getting more money?
Yes, as far as Tanzania is concerned, actually, we are the beneficiary of the cashew export levy. We are getting about 10% of the entire export levy in Tanzania. And that's why cashew research in Tanzania has been able to undertake all the necessary cashew research aspects, from breeding, crop protection, and vegetative propagation. Actually, our institute is providing services to all other African countries in terms of breeding, plant protection, and vegetative propagation. Now to Tanzania, you will say what kind of impact has been realized in Tanzania. You see, what we did was cashew, unlike other annual crops, you don't operate with small plots. So all our research, except the breeding part of it, they are undertaken in pharmacy field. So you don't need to decide anything. So you do it, and the farmer see it happening into the field. But that one is slightly expensive, but it is valuable for money. All our farmers, they are beneficiaries of the cashew export levy, and actually they are even trying and research to get more money so that they can get more staff to reach more farmers. So to me, if you say how much they have gained from a research point of view, I will tell you that they have asked more, almost something like 80% of the technologies from the research. The only problem is it has not reached all farmers, and most farmers are reluctant, for example, to cut down the trees and get the new varieties. But we have a program in place now, which is based supervised by the Cashew Industry Development Trust Fund, in undertaking trainings in all cashew growing areas on the aspect of what we call upgrading, removing unproductive trees, putting on new varieties, without necessarily reducing the average production in the farmer's field. We had those demonstrations, which ran for over 15 years, and we allow farmer-to-farmer interaction during farmer 20 days, and they see what is happening. Now, the speed of taking the research results of the farmers is very high, and they are quite happy with our research results.
The other thing is that what we are seeing in East Africa, the processing is catching up. Mozambique is processing almost, I believe, close to 50% of what it is producing. Of course, Mozambican crop size has gone down drastically from what it was 200,000 tons in 1970s to 50, 60,000 what they currently produce. And Tanzania is also catching up. And we, as ETG, we are also having 3 processing plants in Tanzania. Now, it's again, as we all know, it's challenging because of the number of reasons, because processing is a different volume. Now, is there any specific programs or initiatives which the city is likely to take to maybe invite more people into this processing space of Tanzania, which also other countries can take it as an example of production?
Yeah, really, the cashew nut board of Tanzania has taken several measures in order to ensure that cashew value addition in Tanzania is taking place. In the first place, we have been promoting small-scale processors, but that one does not seem to cope up with the increase in the production. You know, last year we had produced about 130 metric tons. This year we are going to produce over 200,000 metric tons. So what the board and the cashew industry development trust fund did was, we are going to procure 3 new cashew processing machines using the Vietnamese technology. Okay. Because what we have seen, the problem in the processing industry in Tanzania is the laborers. The labor regulations in Tanzania are a little bit difficult, They demand too much more than one can afford. But a visit to Vietnam, we saw those automatic shading machines with different capacities. So the board is going to, in collaboration with the cashew industry development trust fund, we are going to procure 3 factories which will be run by private people. We'll provide them with the city management initiative factories. And that will be just sample factories. One will be in Kuduru, another one will be in Mtwara, and the third one will be in the coast region. The whole idea here is to show Tanzanians that processing is possible and processing is business. So far, the biggest problem with which most of the Tanzanian processors had, except your company and Olam, was the market. And the international market of cashew kernels demand not only quantity, it demands also quantity. So, the current production in Tanzania, all those small-scale processors, they are producing quantities which cannot enter in any international market. And also they are producing different quantities. So, now with the introduction of these 3 factories, which will be the model factories, we are going to minimize the number of laborers to be involved in the processing, and only few will be involved. To the best of my knowledge, and with my experience across Africa, that is the only way we can break through in Tanzania to attract more Tanzanians to invest in cashew processing. On top of that one, there is one of the cooperative unions called Italian. They also enter into a joint venture with the processing company. They are going to be involved in processing. What I can advise investors who are interested to invest in Tanzania, you know, cashew is a voluminous crop. In order to make a profit, you really have to deal with volumes. And if you want to deal with the volumes, don't in Tanzania actually, you have to deal with the farmers. If you don't incorporate farmers in your business, and one day somebody wakes them up, they will make their own factories and they will never give you anything supplied while you have invested a lot. So if you want to invest in a cashew processing, like a country like Tanzania, then it is better if you can enter into a joint venture with the cooperatives who are the owners of the cashews. In this way, you bring your money, they bring their cashews. Then you become good partners who are depending each one another.
Thanks, Doctor. I think that maybe a few of the guys may be interested to talk to you one-to-one later, so they can engage with you tomorrow. And with that, thanks very much for insightful thoughts on cashew business in general and specific to Tanzania and cashew agricultural practice. Whatever you said, I'm sure that's something every association members were here to take on some of that before we give it to their countries. Now let me now just turn to on Nigeria. So, one of the things everybody would agree that the moment Nigerian cashew comes, they say about quality, it cannot be killed easily. It's one of the things which is something what we need to hear. So, what are the specific initiatives the association has taken to improve this so-called quality? I'm saying to say that to improve this quality.
Thank you very much. It's a great delight for me to be here. First of all, I will say that in time past, Nigeria really had not had the voice in terms of projection of its image, and there are a lot of questions about even the quantity that we produce and all the other information. But thank God, in the last few years, we've had a very national association for cashew that has been able to relate with players in the business across the world, and information, correct information about the industry is coming out. In terms of quality enhancement in Nigeria, I I would say that in the last 3-4 years, there has been remarkable advancement in that regard. We've been doing quite a lot of work to see that the farmers are educated in the best agricultural practices, on how to improve their yield, improve their quantities, also to train them in the area of post-harvest handling processes and methods, and in fact to train them on the harvesting method. Before now, find some of them, maybe they're too much in a hurry when they see the cashew, pull it down by themselves. We've been trained now for them to know that when you do that, you're going to be having a lot of immature. So now the level of immature has reduced drastically. Training and sensitization has been ongoing regarding drying, because moisture usually, as you will agree with me, the major challenge with cashew and all across the world. A whole lot of improvement is being seen in that regard. The farmers have been trained on what to do, and the fact that they should drive quick enough. You mentioned the issue of stability problem, which a number of people say has to do with Nigerian cashew. What we have seen is that in the last 3 years, the breedability issue has reduced, because now we tell them, from the first day that you have your harvest, spread the cashew. Don't wait, don't pack it after a while, and then you now try it. Do it immediately. That has drastically reduced breedability problem. And then, of course, in the last few years, with our advocacy, government has come up strong. In the year 2013, cashew was made one of the transformational crops in the agricultural transformation agenda of the federal government, which we think is a big one. And then recently, our highly esteemed executive director and CEO for Export Council, BZN, Barrister Michel Kumwabolo, made this presentation earlier on. He also fought to see that cashew is made one of the strategic commodities towards diversifying the Nigerian economy, which is a big one, which means that a whole lot of attention, a whole lot of focus is being drawn on cashew. And then, of course, in the past few years also, we have had strategic alliances with partners across the board. We have an alliance with Dinakas in terms of technical cooperation, marketing cooperation. Last year, we signed an MOU for 80,000 tons of cashew, and that was for the 2014 crop. 2014, Vietnam actually bought 106,000 tons from Nigeria. I mean, which is a good one. That means the amount signed was exceeded. And this year, and of course, that also corrects a whole lot of information on the statistics that people give. We say last year we did about 150,000 from Nigeria, because 106 alone went to Vietnam. Of course, we have some quantities about 20 or over 20,000 tons to India, and then we have local processing also done. So clearly, what we have seen is that with the training that is ongoing, we are having less of wastages and losses, post-harvest losses, which I think that in itself is changing the numbers. Of course, we have strategic alliances with ACA, and they've been also very cooperative, supporting us in our efforts. TechnoStaff also, and which the Nigerian Export Promotion Council is trying. All of that is going to change the game for Nigerian cashew. And I'm saying that Nigeria is the place. And we see a whole lot of potential. As you said, 170 million people, the largest market in Africa, middle class, getting stronger. You can't beat that. So, also in terms of production, we have about 84 million hectares of arable land. Only 40% is being cultivated right now. So, a whole lot of opportunities for production also.
So I think we're running out of time. Thanks for that input. I think the head of Export Promotion Council has given a substantial input for the people who want to invest in Nigeria, with all those incentives and support factors, whatever they have brought in their system, so which I think I'm sure will attract a lot of people. Quite a few things very new for me also to know all those things. And I'm sure people are really doing their efforts to increase the production and get better value for the farmer. And I think we are already out of time. Okay, Dr. Consus.
Thank you very much. Before I leave the stage, I would like to take this opportunity to invite all of you to the 3rd International Cashew Nut Conference, which will take place in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, on the 5th and 6th of October this year. You are all welcome to come and see knowledge and technologies that have been developed in Tanzania. On top of that one, you will have an opportunity to visit the great national parks in Tanzania, where you will see the really animal kingdoms.
Just on the closing remarks, what panelists have said that Africa has a bundle of opportunities. There is opportunity to participate at any level. You can set up industries, you can participate in trade, you can part of that economy, you can invest in Africa. So there's a huge opportunity in every sector in Africa, and there's a lot of opportunity in the specific sector of cashew. So there is something all the stakeholders of cashew industry can consider participating in African space. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Srivastav and team. We have that questions. Okay, so we have time and grant some time. If there's any questions,
quick questions from the audience. We are running behind time, but I can see the attention of the audience. We need to provide time. It was an excellent discussion, very engaging one. Any questions?
Mine is rather than asking a question, I want to make an addition to the degrading level of cashew production in Africa. So actually, it is detailed that some of the trees are aged and unproductive. So actually, there is need for R&D, research and development, and there is need for cutting down all trees, placing them instead more enhanced productive seedlings. So in that case, the fear of the farmer, the fear of the cashew producer is between the time of maturity of the trees to from the planting time to the time of maturity of the trees when you start selling the seeds. So eventually, I think one innovation we have is intercropping with the trees. Because the farmer can have certain crops that can be intercropped with the cashew so that he will have economy standing before the maturity level of the trees. That's what I want to ask. Thank you.
Doctor, you understood. So what you suggested that as a good agri practice for cashew, you need the case whenever we mention, when its production is going to cease or reduce. So he's saying, is there anything like intercrop so that he doesn't lose his income?
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, if we are going for either large scale or small scale planting of cashew, intercropping is mandatory. Because the first 3 years you don't get enough crop, enough cash from the cashew trees to be able to return your investment. But his concern is correct. What we did in Tanzania is we established what we call cashew nut development centers in all cashew growing areas. This is where we planted all our improved varieties and all improved clones so that they can be multiplied there and supplied to farmers and subsidy. It's not at the commercial level. And this one can help them because once you cut the old tree, the farmer wants to see a quick recovery of the income. And the grafted tree, where we're using our improved variety in year 3, you can get 5 to 6 kilograms if you give it a proper management. But trees are aging, that is correct. But it's a wrong perception. Because in Tanzania, trees which were planted when I was born, they are still producing up to 70 kilograms per tree. And we have called them a cashew forest area. We want to show the world that cashew does not age the way they are thinking. Cashew can age even at the age of 25 if the management is not good. But you give it the proper management, it will produce. What I'm trying to say here is, I think my colleague here was talking about poor irritability. That is really a varietal problem. It's not a cashew problem. That's why all our selected varieties, the first test is availability, because that is the most important part in the cashew value chain. If you cannot fill the tester very well, that is really additional cost in the processing itself. So that's one of the components that has been taken into consideration. So what I can advise my colleagues from Nigeria is really to see how they can replace beginners, high yielding, that they can be selected directly from the farmer's field, not even necessarily from the research part of it. I did the same thing in Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, Benin, and Togo. Those guys now, they have known how to select improved plant material in the farmer's field with the required selection criteria. So in that way, when you do what you call top weighting or canopy substitution, the tree which has been top weighted, it will regain its yield in year 3. You get back all your yield with all the required characteristics. And now if they top weight, they are going to use the right material, which are going to get the right material.
Thank you so much. The issue of reliability that you mentioned, there's some ongoing research, cashew research institute is working on it as well. And then, of course, at the moment, the new platforms are the hybrid ones that have been, but of course, so this is like we said, they're the older trees. But in the meantime, we cannot cutting them. We're trying to have to manage them while we still do research. So we might have to be collaborating with your